In the annals of history, aphorisms often surface that can not only shock with their bluntness, but also provoke deep contemplation about the nature of human relationships. One such saying, attributed to the great Napoleon Bonaparte, declares, "Women are nothing but machines for producing children." At first glance, such a statement might seem not merely absurd, but frankly offensive in the modern world. After all, who among us doesn't admire the image of a man endowed with power, driven by ambition, and possessing dominant charisma? However, as history shows, greatness always comes with an immeasurable price, and this price often weighs heavily on one's personal life. Great individuals, whose names are forever etched in the scrolls of time, are rarely truly present in the ordinary sense of the word. They are consumed entirely by their mission, their vision, their relentless struggle, be it war, complex strategy, or empire building. And in this unstoppable, all-consuming pursuit of their destiny, there is very little room left for emotional tending, for constant reassurance, for being tamed and bound by the ties of domestic attachment. The Emperor of the French understood this harsh truth not only as a visionary ruler, but also as a man who experienced the depth of feelings and the bitterness of romantic disappointment. His letters to Josephine, filled with passion, despair, and at times almost humiliating pleas, were met only with cold, soul-chilling betrayal. While he, overcoming unimaginable difficulties, built the foundation of a new empire, his beloved serenely indulged in entertainment with numerous lovers. It was then, in the depths of his shock, that Napoleon came to a startling conclusion. Contrary to popular belief, not all women sincerely desire a man's greatness. Many of them, it turned out, actually fear it. The reason for this fear lies in the very essence of greatness. It cannot be controlled. It tolerates no subservience. It cannot be confined within the quiet walls of a cozy home or tied down by a routine, predictable attachment. Greatness by its nature is demanding. It is unstable. It is insatiable, like a bottomless chasm that swallows everything in its path. And for a significant portion of women, such power is not synonymous with love. For them, it is rather a direct threat to their own world and their desire for security. This is why, as Napoleon surmised, many women instinctively gravitate toward what seems manageable, safe, and, essentially, mediocre. A man devoid of great ambition doesn't ask deep, unsettling questions about the meaning of existence, doesn't wage real, exhausting wars for ideals, and doesn't pursue an eternal legacy. He is gentle, predictable, always available, and, most importantly, dependent. His personality, his aspirations, and even his self-perception revolve not around some global mission, but exclusively around her, around the woman beside him. And this makes him attractive not because of who he is, but because of what he catastrophically lacks. He lacks the danger, the unpredictability inherent in great men. He lacks the willingness to sacrifice for something greater than himself. And finally, he lacks the agonizing risk of being abandoned, which inevitably accompanies a man who dares to strive for heights far beyond ordinary existence. Napoleon Bonaparte clearly understood the dynamics of these processes. "Women are nothing but machines for producing children," he once uttered, and these words sounded not like an expression of hatred, but as the result of cold and pragmatic imperial calculation. He reduced their role to a purely biological function because, in his deep conviction, the vast majority of women were incapable of rising above that level. They did not grasp the whirlwinds that rage in the soul of a man who rejects mediocrity and refuses to be content with little. The great commander did not seek to win love or affection. He had long lost all interest in such sentiments. His true aspiration was to conquer truth, to grasp harsh reality, despite the painfulness of discoveries and sometimes precisely because of it. And what he constantly observed was an undeniable fact. The grander a person's path becomes, the more solitary they find themselves. This happens not out of personal preference for solitude, but because comfort, emotional warmth, and attachment are incompatible with the flame of true greatness. Look around. We live in a modern society that professes admiration for outstanding achievements, but only on the condition that it does not disrupt general well-being, serves as entertainment, is aesthetically pleasing, and does not threaten established norms of collective comfort. However, a person possessing genuine power, deep intellect, and keen insight can evoke genuine fear in others, especially in personal relationships. Napoleon learned this truth from his own very painful experience. He was an undisputed genius of military strategy, the embodiment of indomitable energy, a god of impulse. But even he, the omnipotent emperor, was forced to appeal to her in his ardent love letters, begging Josephine not to break her vows of fidelity. Nevertheless, she still committed betrayal. Why? Because power is incapable of captivating the heart in the way that stability and predictability do. While power wins on battlefields, it rarely conquers sincere emotional devotion. Women, even when surrounded by grand achievements and worldwide fame, often prefer reliable companionship over triumphant conquests. Can it be argued that modern realities have changed this fundamental truth? The modern male often believes that if he only works harder, achieves more significant success, climbs another rung on the career ladder, he will finally attain the much-desired love. However, Napoleon would undoubtedly have merely smirked at such a delusion, for he perfectly understood the bitter truth of existence. The more exceptional a person becomes, the less appealing he seems to those who value stability and peace above all else, rather than a constant struggle for their ideals. It is for this deep, subconscious reason that many women instinctively gravitate toward men whom they perceive as being below them. These are the men they can control, those who show immense gratitude simply for their presence, in short, mediocre men. Such men do not seek to disrupt the accustomed way of life. They do not create disturbances. They do not require absolute silence for focused contemplation. They do not immerse themselves completely in their obsessions, and do not sacrifice present well-being for some future they alone envision. These men do not challenge their partner or question her worldview. On the contrary, they revolve around her, making her the center of their universe. And being the axis of someone's world is, undoubtedly, intoxicating. However, for a man whose soul yearns for true greatness, such unconditional devotion is exceedingly rare, almost impossible, because he himself does not revolve. He ascends. And in this process of his ascent, he inevitably threatens the very foundations of modern relationships, their comfort. Napoleon Bonaparte fully embodied this contradiction in his life. A man with an incredible ability to command armies of thousands and subjugate entire nations, he was nonetheless often perceived by others as emotionally distant, overly focused on his goals, too cold and calculating. But how else can one build a vast empire? How else can a man engrave his name forever in the annals of history, in its immutable bones? He does not achieve this by idling and whispering sweet nothings. He achieves it by transforming into something greater than just a man. And in this grand transformation, he becomes not so much a partner as an irresistible force. So, what do you desire? Serene comfort or an eternal legacy? For Napoleon already knew then, the vast majority of women choose the former. Any man who has tasted the bitter fruit of betrayal while building something far greater than himself deeply understands the feelings that overwhelmed Napoleon. A man gives his all. He dedicates his time, his sharp mind, and his very soul unreservedly to a grand vision, only to return to his world and discover that he is not valued or admired for it, but rather hated. This hatred stems from the fact that his own greatness serves as a silent reproach, reminding others of their own mediocrity. His deep focus transforms into perceived detachment. His relentless ambition is mistakenly seen as arrogance, and his silent immersion in thought is misinterpreted as emotional absence. However, such men, like Napoleon, were not destined to coddle or please. They were born to lead, to create, to dominate. And such a character is utterly incompatible with the emotional script dictated by modern relationships. Let's be absolutely clear. Napoleon harbored no hatred for women. He merely recognized a truth that the vast majority of men are too afraid to accept, namely, that a woman's words about her desires often diverge from her actual choices. In theory, she may admire greatness of spirit and grand accomplishments, but in practice, she may marry for convenience and stability. She may extol ambition and the pursuit of peaks, but ultimately build a home with someone who demonstrates subservience and a lack of challenges. And if anyone naively believes that love can shield them from this harsh truth, let them ask why so many brilliant, disciplined, self-made men are abandoned by those who once swore eternal love to them. For love, devoid of deep understanding, is a kind of delayed action mine whose destructive effect does not manifest immediately. Most women, it seems, do not grasp the true price a man pays when he follows the path of relentless discipline. This path is fraught with sleepless nights, years of ridicule and neglect from others, agonizing isolation, spilled blood, and exhausting, continuous labor. They are only capable of seeing the end result, the peak of success, but they are unaware of the merciless internal war that precedes this triumph. And when this internal struggle does not end, when a man continues to relentlessly climb, refusing the opportunity to find peace and settle down, those who once admired his unquenchable fire begin to feel unconcealed aversion to that flame. It is for these reasons that Napoleon Bonaparte, as is well known, spoke of women with such striking coldness and indifference. He once attempted to embark on the path of romantic idealism, but this path ultimately led to complete disillusionment for him. It was not that the great commander was incapable of sincere feelings, but rather that deep attachment and love proved unable to keep pace with the grandeur of his destiny. And when a man prioritizes his destiny and global achievements over a cozy home and family well-being, he inevitably condemns himself to complete solitude. This is truly a cruel and ancient compromise that has haunted humanity for ages. Either gain power and global dominion, or know true peace and serenity. But it is exceedingly rare to combine both. A man can conquer someone's heart or conquer an entire world, but never possess both simultaneously. And those who desperately try to walk some middle path, attempting to reconcile the irreconcilable, ultimately always find themselves torn apart by this contradiction. This is why a great man, possessing outstanding intellect and ambition, inevitably walks his path alone. This happens not because he himself seeks solitude or craves isolation, but because his inner world and the scale of his aspirations surpass the meager benefits and mundane compromises that the world offers in exchange for his subservience and conformity to accepted norms. Napoleon Bonaparte certainly did not seek intentional isolation from society. He was forced into it, under the colossal weight of his own vision and the immense burden of his destiny. The higher a human personality ascends, the grander its goals and thoughts become. The fewer are those who can truly grasp and share the unique air it breathes, and understand the true motives of its existence. Women, as is known, seek to be seen, heard, and surrounded by the warmth of embraces. However, a man completely absorbed in his great mission often does not have the time to attend to these delicate needs for emotional validation. His essence is not permeated by natural coldness. On the contrary, it is tempered and sharpened by an unwavering pursuit of his goal. This is what modern society stubbornly refuses to acknowledge. The vast majority of people, including women, experience a subconscious fear of truly great individuals. This fear is not due to their malevolence, but to the inability to tame them, claim them, or subjugate them to one's will. It is impossible to predict the actions of a person who serves something incomparably higher than ordinary love or personal attachments. And this is why the world tends to demonize him. He's toxic, they declare. He's unavailable. He doesn't listen. And of course, he truly doesn't listen. He is busy creating history. Napoleon's historical example vividly demonstrates this tendency. He was ostracized and demonized for many aspects, for his insatiable ambition, for his grand conquests, for his seemingly boundless ego. However, at its core, he was punished for his principled refusal to bow to love, tradition, and comfort. His downfall was not due to a lack of his own power, but rather to a deep illusion that those closest to him would ever fully grasp his true essence and great purpose. Ultimately, even the mighty emperor is abandoned by those he selflessly sought to protect. Like a lion, such a man is destined to meet his end in complete solitude. There is one fundamental truth that humanity seems to prefer not to utter aloud, passing over it in silence. Men are faced with a choice that will determine their life's path. This choice lies between building a magnificent empire and creating a cozy home. The first path promises the immortalization of one's name, an invaluable legacy that will endure for centuries. The second grants warmth, peace, and intimacy, but never both of these gifts simultaneously. While men whose lives unfold in mediocrity often bask in love, receive praise, and are remembered as respectable citizens, it is the exceptional individuals, those destined for solitude, misunderstanding, and exile, who are capable of carving their names into the annals of history. Therefore, if an individual strives to grasp truth, to achieve genuine greatness, to create something immortal, he must be prepared not to be loved in the conventional sense. He must come to terms with doubts, with the risk of being abandoned, for his nature does not promise safety, and this, in turn, makes him dangerous. However, one should never forget the undeniable fact. The world invariably bows before the power that emanates danger. And yet, perhaps in the minds of many, the question still lingers. Why? Why would a woman turn away from a man whose life is subject to the strictest discipline, whose gaze is fixed on a distant future, whose will is relentless, from one who is capable of literally moving mountains? Why would she choose to turn away from a storm capable of transforming an entire world, opting instead for a gentle breeze barely rustling the leaves of trees? The reason lies in a deep and undeniable truth. Great men are not just individuals. They are like mirrors reflecting the surrounding reality. These exceptional individuals are the living embodiment of everything that is absent in many others. Their indomitable ambition, like a bright light, exposes the hidden complacency and inertia of those around them. Their profound silence, instead of being a sign of inner strength, is mistakenly interpreted as a manifestation of insecurity. Their capacity for solitude and self-sufficiency is perceived as an unhealthy dependence on their own world, rather than as freedom. For the vast majority of women, and indeed for a significant portion of humanity as a whole, such a reflection in the mirror proves unbearable, causing internal discomfort. The presence of a man who makes no emotional demands, seeks no constant approval, and fears no solitary path is, paradoxically, perceived not as an expression of romantic feelings, but as something frightening and unsettling. Such a state of affairs implies the absolute impossibility of controlling his personality. Attempts to entice him with sweet words or hold him captive with emotional attachment are futile. The only available option is either to follow him on his path or to remain forever behind, watching his receding figure. Such a relationship dynamic, where there is no possibility of manipulation and dominance, is categorically unacceptable to many women. Although rarely spoken aloud, remaining an unspoken truth, many women make their choice not out of genuine admiration for masculine qualities, but rather based on the potential to gain emotional leverage. They seek a partner who can be molded, like pliable clay, according to their perceptions and desires. A man they can unconditionally rely on. He will stay by their side in moments of despair when tears blind their eyes. He will halt his own life's progress when she is overcome with doubt, so that she invariably feels herself the undeniable axis of his existence. However, a truly great man, he does not stop his movement. He does not revolve around others' needs. He tirelessly builds, erects something significant. And for this, he is willing to shed sweat and blood, giving his all to his cause. He is by no means heartless, but his inner world and feelings are subject to strict discipline. He is not a man incapable of love, but love is not the center of his life's mission. It is not his primary goal. Such a mindset makes him virtually unattainable for most ordinary women. The reason lies in the fact that she does not seek a shared path alongside a titan of spirit or action. Her true need is a companion who can provide her with a sense of security, the feeling of being heard, and absolute priority in his life. This is the unspoken, perhaps even shameful, reason why so many women prefer men who outwardly appear to possess high status and significance, but are internally far less accomplished and strong. Such a chosen one may possess outward signs of masculinity. His speech may sound confident, as befits a man. Yet deep down he is nothing more than soft, pliable clay that easily takes any form under the influence of her moods, her immediate needs, and her personal worldview. He poses no threat to her established comfort and customary way of life, and therefore is no threat at all, which makes him a safe choice. And so, we are presented with the bitter irony of human relationships. A woman in such a situation will never truly be able to feel genuine admiration for him. Perhaps she will harbor tender feelings for him, cling to his presence, and even, likely, agree to bind her destiny to him in marriage. However, deep down, in the most hidden corner of her consciousness, she will invariably realize that her choice fell not on a true leader, not on one who can lead, but merely on a servant who masterfully imitated royal grandeur and bearing. As for the man who is unaccustomed to bowing before difficulties, whose will knows no stopping, who burns with ideas even at 2 a.m, creating something yet unseen by the world, he should grasp one important truth. He was never rejected because of any personal flaws or shortcomings. On the contrary, the reason for such rejection was his inner fire, that furious intensity of his soul, which implied that by his side a woman would have to transform, to become something significantly greater than she is. And herein lies the crux of the problem. The vast majority of people do not strive for such growth. They do not wish to undertake this ascent above themselves. They prefer peace and serene rest. Therefore, there is no point in envying a person mired in mediocrity. He should rather be pitied, For, although he may be loved in the ordinary sense, he will never be accorded genuine respect. His presence will never evoke that deep, soul-stirring need. He will likely be tolerated, used for others' purposes, perhaps even cherished with some tenderness, but he will never truly be followed. The reason is simple. He lacks the spark, the inner substance, that can inspire and lead. This man's destiny, it turns out, was never meant to be an object of universal love and affection, unlike many others. His existence more closely resembles an untamed storm than a soothing lullaby. The path destined for him is not paved with gentle slopes, but winds through steep, arduous peaks. His true reward will not be found in cozy peace or serene comfort. It will come as the result of a profound conquest, but not over external adversaries. It is a victory over himself, over the oppressive feeling of loneliness, over whispering doubts and tempting voices that urge him to simply surrender and submit to another's will, to become what others want him to be. One must not allow these inner demons to prevail. It is necessary to let go, to free oneself from the obsessive idea of always being understood, for his essence was not formed to provide female comfort. He was created for a great masculine purpose. And yes, this path will inevitably demand a huge price. He may have to journey in complete solitude. He may pass away without ever being fully understood by those around him. However, if he can steadfastly adhere to his chosen course, if he demonstrates unyielding resilience, the world will not consign his name to oblivion. For, in the end, no woman erects majestic statues that glorify centuries. No woman rewrites the pages of history, shaping a new worldview. No woman leads nations into decisive battle or brings a grand vision into tangible reality. This is the domain of men. And they accomplish these feats in absolute solitude, bleeding, focused on their mission, often unloved, yet absolutely unstoppable. Therefore, there is no need to ask why she did not choose him. The answer has long been known. She did not strive for greatness. Her desire was merely for comfort. And this man, by his very nature, is not the embodiment of comfort. He is danger itself. And the world still reverently bows before this